them down one by one. I pulled one off and nearly laughed out loud. Violation, unapproved rustic structures. They were talking about my grandfather's hand-built cabin. The same cabin that had weathered 40 years of storms and housed 3 generations of my family. Another one, violation, non-conforming vegetation. Karen apparently had a problem with my oak trees. You know, the ones that were there when her parents were still in diapers. My personal favorite, violation, commercial vehicle on residential property. She was citing my work van, a plain white Ford that I use for IT service calls. Apparently having a job was against HOA regulations now, though I remembered reading somewhere that HOAs can't actually restrict work vehicles unless it's specifically written into the original covenants. The final notice announced a mandatory compliance inspection scheduled for the following Tuesday at 9 a.m. sharp. Karen would be arriving with her architectural review board to assess the full extent of my violations. Time for some research. I spent the next 6 hours at the county clerk's office, surrounded by dusty filing cabinets and the musty smell of old documents. The clerk, a friendly woman named Betty who'd worked there since the Carter administration, helped me dig through decades of property records. "Honey," she said, adjusting her reading glasses, "your grandfather's deed is crystal clear. This property was explicitly excluded from all development agreements. See this notation here? Parcel 47B reserved from subdivision. That means hands off." I photographed everything. The original 1962 deed, the 1985 boundary survey, the 2018 Willowbrook development plat that clearly showed my property as separate. Betty explained that once property boundaries are legally established and recorded, they can't be changed without the owner's written consent. Something my grandfather never gave because he died before Willowbrook even existed. But Karen wasn't playing by legal rules. She escalated to social media warfare. That evening, while eating leftover pizza that tasted like cardboard thanks to my stress levels, I discovered her Facebook post. Concerned about problem property affecting our beautiful neighborhood. Some people think rules don't apply to them. Property values matter. # Willowbrook states HOA property standards. The comments were pure gold. Half the neighbors defending Karen like she was leading a holy crusade, the other half asking what the hell she was talking about. One brave soul named Dolores Martinez commented, "Karen, that cabin was there before any of us. Maybe worry about your own property?" I screenshotted everything. My army training had taught me that documentation wins wars, whether you're fighting insurgents or suburban tyrants with too much time on their hands. Tuesday morning arrived with Karen's architectural review board, which turned out to be Karen, her husband Dale, who looked like he'd rather be getting a root canal, and some guy in a cheap suit who kept checking his phone like he was being held hostage. They marched around my property like generals inspecting battlefield damage. The smell of Karen's overpowering perfume mixed with morning dew created this sickly sweet fog that followed her everywhere. She dictated notes into her phone while pointing at perfectly normal things. Wood siding non-compliant with neighborhood standards. Gravel driveway creates dust issues. Fire pit represents safety hazard. That's when my neighbor Dolores appeared at my door. She was 68, built like a linebacker, and had the kind of weathered face that spoke of zero tolerance for nonsense. "Marcus, honey, I need to warn you about something," she said, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Karen did this same thing to the Hendersons 2 years ago, elderly couple who lived here 30 years. She harassed them until they sold and moved to a retirement home. What was her angle? She filed complaint after complaint with the